Good evening, you're watching Getting to Know. A big thank you to everybody who's made it tonight. So we're introducing Nolan Frendo. Nolan, thanks very much for being with us.
Have me?
Part of the Youth Arts Jamboree program, and with these sessions what we wanted to do was introduce local musicians and give young people a chance perhaps to learn from their experiences. You can give them advice and tips perhaps in songwriting, tell them how you've done things, what you've learned along the way, and so on. So I imagine you're still on a bit of a high after last weekend.
Yeah.
Has to be said, you've just returned from London, having performed, supported Top Loader. So how did that go?
It was really good, actually. There was about 450, 500 people turned up. The crowd was really enthusiastic. They were willing to get involved, so we couldn't be happier about it, to be honest.
Great stuff. And obviously, you're the lead singer of Jetstream. So what's the plan at the moment? Having gone over to the UK, that's a great experience. I mean, what's the dream?
Well, I mean, you just never know. I mean, dream big, like they say, and you just never know. I mean, we're sort of plodding along and doing our thing. We've got plenty of gigs in the UK coming up. We've got stuff in Spain as well. And the important thing here is to enjoy what you're doing. Don't let it pressure you. Don't make it feel like you have to do this. Just do it because you love it and enjoy it. And that's what we're doing currently. And it seems to be working pretty well for us.
Good. We'll touch on more on the Jetstream sort of journey and how it all began, but I'd like to take you back to the very beginning.
Okay.
Because I think you described yourself as a late starter when it came to music. So you were around 16, 17 when you thought that was something that you might want to get into?
Between the ages of 15 to 17, I was never musically inclined. I was just a follower. I used to follow what my friends used to listen to, so they'd listen to breakbeat or house music or whatever was going on in the clubs back when I was a kid, in the youth clubs, by the way, not the real thing. But then I heard a local band called Melon Diesel once, and that just opened my horizons. I'm like, hang on. What is this? Why do I feel this towards this music? Why am I attracted to this? And then I was told they were local, and I'm like, well, okay, if they can do it, and they're from Gibraltar, then surely I can do it. And it kind of propelled me to just sing and sing and sing. For some reason, it made me sing. It didn't make me want to pick up a guitar or the drums or anything of the sort. And yeah, I just consistently sang and sang at home, probably to the dismay of my parents. But yeah, that's what propelled me to start.
So they were an inspiration, really, for you?
Well, for me, and I'm sure for many here in Gibraltar, in the long run anyhow, I mean, they were fundamental for a lot of kids being musicians, and I think everyone in Gib values what they did, and they were fantastic.
How important do you think it is for young people, perhaps starting out, for those exploring, to have people to look up to, and perhaps even those that they can relate to, speak to, and learn from?
I think it's essential. I mean, without inspiration, there would be nothing, I guess. I mean, what would prompt you to pick up a guitar or sing if you're not hearing something back and you're not inspired by something? It's essential. Without it, I don't think we'd have any of that. So, yeah, it's just hearing a song that you like and instantly you just sing along to it. Or hearing an instrumental and you think, hang on, I want to play that. I want to figure that out. So, yeah, it's essential to have something or someone to look up to for sure.
And you say you started with the singing, so how did that sort of pan out for you? Did you go to lessons, self-taught, watching others do it? I mean, how did you approach it?
In the shower. Just singing, like I said, singing at home all day, blasting the music and just singing, trying to sing on top of it and in essence breaking my voice on a daily basis. And then just singing everywhere in the house until just one day my brother Damien just said, hey, you sing all right. And I'm like, yeah, of course. But he was like, no, seriously, you should give it a try. And I just spoke to some guys in school who were more musically inclined, namely Nick Cortez, whose dad, Hector, had the music center down at Wellington Front. So they had the facility there, and he was like, yeah, why don't you come down? And I know people, and we could get something together. And that's how it started off, just basically being kids, jamming, having fun, playing cover songs. Horribly, by the way, to start with. And yeah, that's what made me start and made me get involved initially.
And the first band, something at school, that's usually how it starts?
Yeah, it was a school band, if you like. We called ourselves Undecided for obvious reasons. And yeah, I used to be a sportsman. I used to enjoy running and playing football. And I just completely left all that. And after school, after doing my homework, first thing I did was just go down to that rehearsal room and just let's just play.
Can you have it both ways? Because usually you find people into music and not necessarily sporty, but perhaps it's just the dedication that's required, and you choose.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, if you want to be really good at something, I guess one's got to go, I guess. Otherwise, maybe you're mediocre at both. So I just completely dropped it, and it worked really well for me. Not for my weight, but it worked for my music for sure.
So do you want to play something for us?
Yeah, sure. I'll do one of my own songs.
Brilliant.
This is F5. Living deep inside of me, there's a hurt I can't control. Visions of a previous self that my ears just came to know. I believed in everything. Suddenly I feel alone. Uninvited, I just seem to penetrate my soul. It's something I can't control, something out of my hands. You weren't my property, so I'm letting go. When you hold me tight and we share the night, this is when I feel alive. When I see your eyes and they're free from lies, this is when I feel alive. And now, and now, temptation or stupidity, I will never comprehend. Forbidden fruit that you desired could have made us lose it all. Someone else I knew within my inner circle. You were free from rails, now I'm letting go. When you hold me tight and we share the night, this is when I feel alive. When I see your eyes and they're free from lies, this is when I feel alive. And I, and I,
Great. F5.
Thanks.
So I think at this stage we have to ask, when did you pick up the guitar?
I must have been, it was quite late on, 17, 18, going on 19. I just felt singing was great and singing covers was all right. But if I wanted to become my own musician, I had to learn an instrument in order to write my own stuff. I just didn't think, I know people do it and it works for them, they just write everything melodically. But for me, either I wasn't gifted that way or I didn't work it out that way. I just needed an instrument. So yeah, I just started easy chords. And it took me forever for finger positioning. It was just a pain. My hand was aching. But I felt I needed it. So again, as with the singing, I was doing it daily for hours on end. I did it with the guitar as well. I just picked it up and just played Knocking on Heaven's Door over and over again. The same 3 chords. Until
Perseverance, yeah?
Yeah, until the muscle memory, and I could just manage it and I could do it. And then that's when I progressed onto harder stuff.
I suppose if you really love something and have that sort of like goal in mind, you'll continue doing it till you get there.
Yeah, if you're really passionate about something and you really want to do it, there's no excuses really. You just get down and just crack on, to be fair, in any art form or in anything in life. If you're really hungry over something, you just go at it for sure.
Now, we've just heard one of your original songs. Yeah. So for you, when did the whole songwriting process begin? Is that something that sort of came easy to you, do you think?
I wouldn't say easy, but as soon as I could play a few chords, I already started writing stuff. Whether it was good or not was a different matter altogether. But I always felt the urge to just play the guitar and come up with my own things. I'd say when I was maybe 23, 24, a good 4 or 5 years into playing is when I really took songwriting seriously, and I actually sat down and constructed songs and came up with ideas that I thought, all right, this sounds good. I'm going to record that and I'm going to keep it for another day and whatnot. But it didn't come naturally originally, no.
You know, if we're talking about advice to young people, what would you say perhaps would be sort of the simpler method, the easier way when tackling how to write a song? If it's something that's set out for them, perhaps at school, if they're doing music, is there such a thing as an easy way of composing a song?
I don't think it's easy or hard. It's what feels right to you at the end of the day. If you sing a melody or you write a piece on the guitar, and that feels right to you, and that's right. There is no right or wrong in music. There's no set formula, if you like. If I sing anything over 4 chords and I like it, and that's right for me. If the people don't react to it, okay, that's fine too. But if I'm happy with it, I'm content with it, that's fine. And that applies for everyone and anyone, you know? Just write whatever feels right to you, and that's good enough.
What about the process within Jetstream? Because obviously you're a band.
Yeah.
It's very different to actually writing things on your own, the band of the sound.
Yeah.
Is it something that involves certain sacrifices and compromises? Because obviously you've got to take on board the opinion of 5 different band members on this occasion. So how do you guys approach the whole process?
I'm not sure anyone here has been married to 5 guys before. I'm married to 5 guys, or 4 rather, without counting myself. It's hard, of course. There's opinions for everything. I could give out an idea and then maybe the other 4 guys don't entirely agree with it. When it comes to songwriting, we have different processes. I can come up with a complete song, just my voice and the guitar, and the other guys contribute to that. Or I can write the whole thing at home on my laptop, and I present it to the guys, and then we can refine it, but the idea is pretty much there. It works different ways. Ultimately, what we see best for the band is the guy who writes the song has the final say on the song, because he's the guy that's composed it. He's got the vision for the song.
Yeah.
So ultimately, everyone can have their opinion, but if that doesn't go with your vision, then maybe it's not a good idea to go with that and just follow your gut.
Is there ever a time when someone comes up with something that doesn't quite go with the whole feel or sound of the band, because you're perhaps exploring new avenues, trying different things?
For sure. Any song that we've written that no one's heard of, those are the ones that never made it because they weren't good enough.
Or not right, perhaps at that particular time?
Yeah, or for whatever reason, whether not right musically or it just didn't work and no one agreed with it, no one really liked it. Yeah, for sure it happens. I mean, it would be crazy to think that anything and everything we write would be released. I mean, I don't think that works in any band. So, yeah, for sure, there's stuff that we scrap and never sees the day of light. Thankfully, probably.
So, if you have to describe sort of Jetstream's sound nowadays, I mean, and I hate sort of putting the musician on the spot because it's a bit of a cliche, you know, but how would you describe it?
It's a tough one. I mean, currently we're doing something that we think sounds pretty modern, pretty in tune with what's out there, or with the electric sounds, poppy choruses, maybe some rocky indie guitars in there. So if you want to label it as electro indie pop, that might work. I'm not sure that's a thing, but it works. So yeah, let's go with that. I think it's the modern sound that we're wanting, that we're needing. And currently, I mean, the last 2 songs that we've released are testament to that, because they really sound fresh. And that's the journey we want to continue in.
I think it's a great introduction to the next track.
Absolutely.
Sample something you produced.
So this is a song called Delta Blues, and it's one of our last 2 singles. Way down in Mississippi, I found a sweet Delta Blues. She stood so very pretty, I knew I had nothing to lose. She made a name in this town when her mama was 17. Knock down a whiskey jigger, make eyes across the room. Be first to pull the trigger, don't trust what you assume. She made a name in this town when her mama was 17. And I met her in a dusty tap room. I kissed her in the southern sun. I shot her in the darkest alley. I miss her in another's arm. My time to pack the order. Let's fight in the big saloon. 10 steps to turn the corner. First blow in the afternoon. Made a name in this town when her mama was 17.
Hey.
Thank you.
So where would you say you had your first sort of like big break? Was it perhaps when you had to audition for Milberjack, was it?
Well, in terms of doing your own songs and being involved in that kind of environment, I suppose so, yeah. I spent the first 5 years of my musical upbringing, if you like, just being in bands, writing, playing covers all along. And I guess it helps in terms of generating a following and getting yourself out there, because people in Jib enjoy going to certain venues and listening to songs they know, and I can understand that to an extent. But then, yeah, I got a call one day that Milberjack, I think Lawrence had left, and they were running some auditions, and I was lucky enough to get the job. So that was completely different atmosphere for me, going into a room with guys who were much older, more experienced than I was, and it was just original music. There was no playing covers. There was none of the familiar feelings that I had in a rehearsal room. And yeah, there's getting to know new songs, recording an album with Mr. Charlie Moore. I think it was in Barnes Studios. And that was a completely new experience for me. I'd never recorded anything. I'd never written my own songs. I'd never been involved. But that made me want it even more.
So that gave you a real taste of what it was about.
This is what it's about. That cover stuff is cool, and it's amazing, and people really feed off that. But this is what it's about. This is the real deal. And yeah, of course, that gave me an extra boost to write more and get definitely any band that I was involved in, have to write my own stuff for that band for sure. That was, the turning point. I wouldn't call it the big break, but the turning point.
The first sort of like moment is perhaps what I was getting at. And how long did you stay with them?
It wasn't long. I think we did just under 2 years. We did a few gigs, but it's just one of those things. It didn't work out. I was in a different stage of my life to them, and it just didn't work out. But I guess all these things happen for a reason, and now I'm in a much better place than I would have ever dreamed of anyhow. So.
Yeah, and they're all experiences that you learn from, and I imagine in bands it's how it goes, doesn't it? So how did Jetstream then come about? Tell us that story.
Funnily enough, before this all happened, I was telling someone outside, it happened in this room.
Really?
And I'll tell you why.
Wow.
I was rehearsing in this room with Philip Valverde and a nucleus of musicians for a New Year's show in Casemates. And within one of those nucleus of bands, Justin Pau was part of it, playing the bass, obviously. And just had a conversation. He was asking me what I was doing, what I was up to. And I just told him at that particular moment in time, I was not doing anything.
So you kind of taken a break, hadn't you?
Yeah. I'd taken a couple of years off. And he's like, well, I've got people ready, we've got a band, do you want to do it? And I'm like, yeah, who's involved? He's like, you've got Stuart Whitwell on guitar, myself on bass, and Dylan Ferro on drums. I'm like, sorry, what?
Dylan Ferro?
Yeah, Dylan.
Melon Diesel?
Melon Diesel, hang on, I want to play with a Melon Diesel guy. And I'm like, yeah, for sure, let's do it. So after this whole ordeal finished with the New Year's, we we got together, we set out a list of songs that we wanted to perform to begin with, and we just cracked on, and it was a great experience. Just being able to we started doing stuff, it was covers to begin with, but we started doing stuff that wasn't being done in Gibraltar, all the indie stuff like the Killers and whatnot, and it really went down well with the crowd.
Is it quite daunting when you're starting off in a band to make sure you kind of get it right from the onset? Because
Yes.
it must be a bit of a scary prospect, yeah?
Because you're the new kids on the block, so
Yeah.
to speak, and you want to cause a good impression. You don't just want to play there and be another band. You want to do things right. Having said that, there was a few hiccups on our first gig, but I guess that
What you have to tell us.
well, it was my fault. I'll take it. I lost the timing on one part, and it was a song that's got an odd time signature, and I just couldn't get back in. So I just lifted my hand up, and we cut that song short. So yeah, you definitely would. If you're the new guys, you want to cause an impression. You want to sort of be the thing at the moment. I think we managed that to an extent. We performed extensively. And because of that, we garnered a huge following in the local scene, whereas wherever we performed, people will come and support us, and that was really, really special.
You mentioned there, the waving, the stopping. A lot of the time, I think with artists, you're the one that's going to notice, and probably everybody else around you, i.e. the crowd, if you can carry on with the show, as it were, will probably not have detected a thing. So how much for you is it important, that connection with the crowd? Because you're very much a showman, wouldn't you say?
For me, it's essential. A crowd, for a performer, I think a crowd makes or breaks a concert or a show for you. I mean, going back to the top loader thing that we mentioned earlier, the moment I gave the crowd something to do and they responded, that automatically makes your show much better. Tenfold, hundredfold. So it's essential. Getting into a bar when we started off and playing these well-known songs, if people are not giving you something back, you kind of lose that spark a bit. It's like, well, your job becomes harder to begin with as a frontman, because you try even harder to get that crowd going, which might backfire. And it becomes a bit dull, because you just end up playing songs knowing that people are not really into it. So as a front man myself, it's my duty to engage with those people. And when they do, thankfully, I've had a few stinkers, but nothing too bad. When they do engage, the show just goes on to another level.
Fantastic. And obviously we've talked about, different things, but let's focus on the driving force for you, maybe on a personal level as well. I mean, what is it, if you have to put your finger on it? Is it success? What drives you?
Passion and love for it, beyond and above anything else, I think. I mean, if we were to be successful, great. I'll take it for sure. Don't get me wrong. But above all, the passion and the love for it. I do it because I love it, I enjoy it, I'm passionate about it. I pick up my guitar and I sing because it feels right to me, and not because I want to obtain anything from it. It's just because it feels right, it's a part of me, and that's what triggers me, and that's what makes me want to do it all the time.
So it's not something that you have to force with regards to the focus and the...
I think the moment you start forcing it is the moment you're doing it wrong. The moment you start formulating songs and writing songs to please or to enter certain markets, that's just wrong. I mean, the way I write is the way I write. I write poppy, catchy songs, I guess, if you want to call them. But that's because that's just the way I write. I don't force it, absolutely not. I don't think forcing music is healthy, so to speak. Works for some guys, I guess, in the industry, and they sell millions, but it wouldn't feel right to me.
But is there an element of compromise as well through music? Because if you want to be perhaps more commercial, more accessible, more popular, or there's a slight element of that?
I guess it depends who you work with. I mean, there always has to be a compromise within the band, like I said earlier, give and take a bit. And then when you go into studio and you work with certain producers, for sure they'll put out their ideas and their input into certain songs. Doesn't mean you have to take them, but it's always good to have a fresh idea from someone outside the band as well, who may give you... I mean, it happened with the song I just performed with Delta Blues. We performed it, we recorded it to the best of our ability, which was fantastic, and then we sent it to a producer in the UK who came back with the product that you listen now on the radio or on Spotify or whatever, and it was wow, this guy's just made this song dynamically incredible. It sounds huge, and it sounds fresh. So yeah, opinions and give and take are always good.
Okay, we can talk about the studio in a little bit, but I think if we're talking about identity, how about some Ed Sheeran and Shape of You?
Okay, let's try that. Club isn't the best place to find lovers, so the bar is where I go. Me and my friends at the table doing shots, drinking fast, and then we talk slow. Come over and start up a conversation with just me, and trust me, I'll give it a chance. Now take my hand, stop and the man on the jukebox, then we started to dance. Singing like, girl, you know I want your love. Your love was handmade for somebody like me. Come on now, follow my lead. I may be crazy, don't mind me. Said, boy, let's not talk too much. Grab on my waist and put that body on me. Come on now, follow my lead. Come on now, follow my lead. I'm in love with the shape of you. We push and pull like a magnet do. Although my heart is falling too, I'm in love with your body. And last night you were in my room, and now my bedsheets smell like you. Every day discovering something brand new. I'm in love with your body. Oh, I, oh, I, oh, I, oh, I. I'm in love with your body. Oh, I, oh, I, oh, I, oh, I. I'm in love with your body. Oh, I, oh, I, oh, I, oh, I. I'm in love with your body. Every day discovering something brand new. I'm in love with the shape of you.
Great, thanks. What's helped shape you as an artist over the years? What do you think? How do you continue that sort of like ongoing development? Because I imagine it's not something that you force, but it's continuous, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's a great question. I think mistakes definitely shape you. Throughout the years, you learn what to do and what not to do, on stage as well as off stage. I mean, when you're an entity, like Jetstream, for example, you have to conduct yourself as such, because the brand name or the band name is there. If you're conducting yourself negatively, then that reflects on the band as well. So definitely all that, mistakes for sure, and just experience with time. Experience comes along, you know what feels right, you know what to do, and it shapes you. Sharing experiences as well with other musicians that you're not used to playing with, that for sure has an influence on me. I mean, I've been very lucky to grace the stage with lots of great musicians, and when I speak of great musicians, I'm not talking about the international artists, I'm talking about the great musicians here in Gibraltar, of which there are plenty. And I've had the opportunity of performing with a lot of those, and that definitely shaped me and made me grow and made me realize that there's no end to this. So many things you can do that I think I will leave this life not ever fully knowing everything about it, because there's so much to do.
And do you think that's a way to go for anybody starting out, perhaps, get themselves some contacts and networks and surround themselves with those doing what they would love to be doing as well, and learning from them?
For sure. I mean, originally, my advice to youngsters starting is always make sure it's fun.
Yeah.
Don't let it be strenuous on you and a burden on you. The moment it feels like, oh, I have to go here, then that's not for you. It's about having fun, getting like-minded people who enjoy the same thing. Just get in a room and have fun. Doesn't matter if you're making noise to begin with. Just have fun.
Yeah.
And if through that fun you end up producing something, then that's great. Yeah. And by all means, share it and showcase it. And by all means, talk to people who have been around and know the stuff, and ask the questions, ask anything, and inform yourself by all means. But it's essential that when you start off, you don't see this as a business, you don't see this as something serious. It needs to be fun, for sure. Good advice.
And staying with the sharing part, it's something you've been doing. In fact, you've taken on a community project along with Laguna Youth Club. So tell us a bit about that, because that must be fun for those taking part as well. I think we've got some of them in the audience that have been involved with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was approached at work by Anne-Marie Struggles, and she was like, "Hey, do you want to do this with the kids at the Laguna Youth Club? They're interested in meeting some of the people of Gibraltar, and you're one of the guys they want to meet." And I'm like, "Okay." It was weird at first, but I went down to the Laguna Youth Club, and there was plenty of kids down there, and it was something similar to this format, where I was just sat down. They were asking me questions about anything, musically or personal or anything, and I was just answering, and in between I was performing some songs, and I could see they were just having fun, and that was good enough for me, you know. I wasn't expecting anything from it except giving those kids something back. I think it's important to give back to the community, because this community has been great to me personally and my bands. It's always important to give back, so that was amazing. And after that experience, then I was told that the kids wanted to write a song, and they wanted me to help them with that song. I thought, that's fantastic, really cool. So I met them again at the retreat center, and there was about 5 groups, and each group had a different part. Had one group with a very sing-along part, which I determined had to be the chorus. Then the others were more rapping of sorts. You had one kid doing the beatbox, and it was my job to sort of get the pieces and put them together. And we ended up with a song, which hopefully in the not too distant future we're going to record officially and maybe use it as a charity single or something like that.
And I love to see, because I think young people perhaps think that they might not have what it takes in them. When you get them involved into a creative process and they're a part of it, that actually, I can do this.
Exactly, and it's about encouraging them as well.
Totally.
There was this one kid doing the beatbox who was only meant to do the beatbox for a little short period of the song, of the whole song, and he was so good at it that I was just, hang on, come here, you're going to do the beatbox for the whole song.
Very
and that just made his evening.
It
was great to see his face lit up like that.
Great stuff. How do you see the local music scene in general?
Right now it's lacking, I think. There's not a lot of stuff out there. There are plenty of singer-songwriters that appear every so often, especially when maybe Rock on the Rock does a singer-songwriter competition. They just pop up and it's like, oh, I've never heard of these guys. And I try and be active on social media and find these people, but it's not always easy. So right now I don't think it's flourishing by any means. In the past it's been fantastic. In the past, when we started off with Jetstream, there was a plethora of bands out there.
And why? Why do you think this is the case?
I don't know, maybe lack of venues. I mean, Rock on the Rock is always there, but if you're a band starting out, unless you perform at Rock on the Rock, you've got nowhere else to perform. Places like, I don't know, Lord Nelson or Ivy's or O'Reilly's, established places, if you like, they're not going to take new starters who they've never heard of. They want people who've been around a while and they know will deliver. So yeah, I think it's that.
But it needs to be addressed, wouldn't you say? I think it's a sentiment that's been shared by all the people I'm speaking to, at least. So maybe something that you could all work towards improving.
Yeah. We'll have to get together and see what we can do.
Let's look at highlights, because I'm sure there's been quite a few. So if I put you on the spot, I mean, what's kind of the first performances or events that come to mind for you?
I think as Jetstream anyway, because prior to that, highlights were all based in Gibraltar, and it was nothing out of the box, if you like. Your National Day concerts and all that, which were great. With Jetstream, I think the first one was the first ever Gibraltar Music Festival with UB40 and Jessie J. We were the first ever band to perform on a Gibraltar Music Festival, and that was huge. That was incredible. I mean, imagine performing on that kind of platform to lots of people, like thousands of people. We'd never done something like that before, so that's definitely a highlight. Then from then on, we did a few more of them, which have always been great. We've always had great reception, thankfully. We've had a great support. We were lucky enough to perform in Cape Verde in a festival we did there alongside, we did it twice.
That's in Africa, isn't it?
Yeah, in Africa, yeah. Alongside Jason Derulo and Tiny Temper and Alicia Dixon and a few others. Also entering the Gibraltar International Song Festival 2 years ago. Something that Stuart suggested, and we were all a bit adamant about it. Like, this is not really us. I don't think we should do it. We went for it, and we were lucky enough to win that as well. That was definitely a highlight. It was unexpected, but it was a beautiful moment as well. So yeah, there's a few in there. Top Loader, obviously, coming fresh from that. That was very good as well. And upcoming, we'll be doing a festival with The Feeling, which we're looking forward to as well. So yeah, plenty of highlights there already, but more to look forward to.
I mean, this is something that's always like intrigued me. Obviously, I think a band, a performer wants to perform to the crowds, but is it more about having an engagement? You know, you could have a massive venue, but if half the people are not really listening,
Correct.
Is it more about having sort of that connection?
Correct. I mean, I'd rather play to a small, intimate venue like this with 50 people who have paid, or not even paid, are willingly here to come and see you, than perform to thousands, whereas only those 50 people are going to engage, and the other remaining ones, not that they don't care, but maybe they're not into the band. So for sure, it's more about getting the right people there and the people who want to be there and connecting with them. But at the same time, trying to connect with people who maybe don't know you. Which is what we're doing a lot now in the UK. Whenever we fly over to perform, we've got our select few that are always there, which we're super and eternally grateful for. But you always want to engage the other people.
Yeah, of course.
And if from every concert you can get 3 new guys, fantastic. If you only get 1, winning. Doesn't matter. We're there, we enjoy it, we're doing it because we love it. And if we can engage people, even better. So for sure, it's essential.
And have you noticed sort of like new engagements, the fan base perhaps growing somewhat on the back of all these like festivals and events abroad, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we first performed in the UK, I think it was in the 100 Club, something that was organised here in Gib. But that one was tricky because people went to see all the local bands, so there was a lot of locals there. So it wasn't real reflection. Not long after that, we performed in Camden, and there was only like 20 people there, truthfully. I mean, there's no shame in saying that. But from those 20 people, we engaged 5. And then the next concert we performed, those 5 people were there, which is fantastic. And from then on, you just keep building. So for sure, we've noticed a difference. Anytime we perform in London now, we've got our select few that always travelled and come to see us, aside from people who, obviously family and friends who still follow us from Gibraltar and make the effort. So for sure.
How much does social media these days play a part? Obviously, we know how it's transformed everything we do, but with regards to music and promotion and putting things out there? It's
essential. I mean, our guitarist Stuart does a grand job of that. He takes care of all the social media, and he's constantly posting, which is great. I mean, nowadays, it's a huge platform for bands and for artists, whereas you can put your music out anywhere. The only problem is that there are so many bands and so many people doing the same thing that it's hard to stick out. But Stuart is very persistent. He's also a graphic designer, which means he does all the posters and all the artwork and everything, which is fantastic.
Very convenient.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's essential. I mean, if you want people to attend your gigs or to listen to your music, it's just the best platform to just plug away, and Stuart does that fantastically. So in this day and age, I'd say it is very, unfortunately, it is very important, but it is what it is. We just have to go down that route.
And tell us at the moment with regards to the work that you're doing and recording. It's something that's always happening. You were telling me you're always kind of involved in recording new material. So what are you working on at present?
We've been gigging and doing this mini tour, as we call it, for a while now, but behind the scenes, we're always rehearsing and we're always recording. We're currently recording with Danny Fa down in his studio by Jumpers Bastion.
Another former Melon Diesel, has to be said. There's always a connection
we're
somewhere.
Coming full circle here.
And we've got to point out one of a camera, also a former,
so we're recording with Danny all the time, aside from when we're performing. We're currently finished a song called Worth the Wait, which we're going to send off to the same producer that produced The Last Goodbye and Delta Blues. And once he sends that back to us, we'll release that. But yeah, like I said, the recording is an ongoing process. It just doesn't stop. We want to keep Danny engaged and with us on our side until we've run out of songs to perform, I guess. So, yeah,
do you enjoy that?
No.
The studio stuff? No, it's not your thing.
It's not I just wish it would be easier in the sense that I could just give the guys the song and just, hey guys, just record this and I'll just turn up when I have to do my part. But it's important to be there and see what's going on and make sure that everything's being done all right. But I definitely do not enjoy it. No. Let's do another take. Let's do another one. No, I don't enjoy it. I just rather perform live. It's one take. If it comes out right, great. And if it doesn't come out all right, I'm sorry. But yeah, it has to be done though.
Of course.
If you don't record your own songs, then no
course.
one's going to hear your stuff.
Time for another one, I think.
Yeah, I'll do another cover, and then I'll finish it off with another song of ours, which we can talk about later.
Brilliant.
So this is Viva La Vida by Coldplay.
I used to rule the world. Seas would rise when I gave the word. Now in the morning I sweep along, sweep the streets I used to own. I used to hold the dice, feel the fear in my enemy's eyes, listen as a crowd would sing. Now the old king is dead, long live the king. 1 minute I held the key, next the walls were down on me, and I discovered that my castle stand upon the pillars of salt and pillars of sand. I hear Jerusalem bells are ringing, Roman cavalry choirs are singing. Be my mirror, my sword and shield, missionaries in a foreign field. For some reason I can't explain, I know St. Peter won't call my name, never an honest word. That was when I ruled the world. It was a wicked and wild wind, blew down the doors to let you in, shattered windows and the sound of drums. People couldn't believe what I'd become, a revolutionary's wed, for my head on a silver blade, just a puppet on a lonely street. Who would ever wanna be king? I hear Jerusalem bells are ringing, Roman cavalry choirs are singing. Be my mirror, my sword and shield, the missionaries in a foreign field. For some reason I can't explain, I know St. Peter won't call my name, never an honest word. That was when I ruled the world.
So Coldplay, Ed Sheeran, just some of the big ones, obviously. With regards to influences, I mean, what do you listen to, perhaps, when you need a bit of inspiration?
You'd never know by the songs I write, or by the songs I sing, for that matter. My inspiration, aside from the aforementioned Mel and Diesel, after that I was like, well, what do these guys sound like, or what are their influences? And I was told by a friend of mine, William Westlake, that they were heavily influenced by a band called Pearl Jam. So I went down to the record store area, and I bought myself an album called 10, and that just completely changed everything for me again. When you thought it couldn't be changed again, and it just inspired me so much. It was so raw and so real, and the singer was so emotionally attached to his lyrics, that it just blew me away. So I instantly begged my mum for pocket money, and I eventually bought the whole catalogue of Pearl Jam albums, and that was amazing. And then from there I expanded further onto the grunge scene, and I found out about Alice in Chains and about Soundgarden and Chris Cornell in particular. And that's how my journey with the real music that I enjoy started. And it inspired me to the point where I don't write lyrics like Eddie Vedder, I don't write music like Chris Cornell, but it made me want to do that though. So even though I've never achieved that level, it still made me want to do that and made me want to try. So it was very important for me that I found those bands, for sure.
Were there earlier influences at home, you know, what the parents are listening to and so on?
Well,
did that have any kind of bearing, you think?
I wouldn't say influences. I recall sitting in my dad's car whenever he took us for summer holidays, camping or whatever, and he'd listen to a lot of Nat King Cole and Johnny Cash and a composer called Luis Cobos. It wasn't my scene, but I do remember it though vividly. It never influenced me though, but my parents had never been mega musical anyway, or anyone in my family for that matter. So yeah, I had to pick it up myself along the way.
What about Spanish music? Did that have a bearing on you? I mean, it was big for me growing up. I think not as much nowadays, perhaps, for young people. What about yourself?
Not so much. I mean, again, going back to the original thing, the Melodies album was in Spanish, but I don't think that would have had a reflection on the influence, because I heard the album in English not long after, and it was still amazing to me. So no, I mean, the Spanish music for me came a bit later. Started listening to other bands like El Canto del Loco, Maná, and stuff like that, which really stuck with me. But originally, no, the Spanish thing wasn't. I didn't even, when I was writing or composing, I didn't even think in Spanish, and I still don't to this day. It's always in English, so not so much of an influence.
You mentioned how you kind of like work with your melodies, but the words, the lyrics to a song, I mean, how does that come about for you? In the shower again?
No, not so much. I have to actually sit down and think about those. I've worked them in two different ways. I've either written a piece beforehand, complete, like a poetic piece if you like, and then tried to put it into a song, or I write the melody with the chords and then try to fit words into the melody. I think.
But are you one of those people that has to sit down for the moment to come, or does it come to you in those sort of weird and wonderful ways?
No, lyrically, I think I can just write, which is probably why some of this stuff isn't great, because I just write. But yeah, I mean, I'm not one who finds it extremely easy to write songs lyrically anyway. But I try my best, and the formula that I have lately is just writing a song melodically and musically, and then putting the words into it. Whereas trying the other method that I explained earlier, I find much harder. Just having a piece of words in essence and trying to come up with a melody for that is harder for me.
Does it feel better if you're writing from direct experience, or something that may have moved you, touched you because of the emotion attached?
Yeah, for sure. The emotional attachment helps. And it automatically, for me anyway, becomes easier to write. Because when you're writing about something that's real, the words just flow, and there's no thought process, in the sense that you don't have to think about what's coming next, because it's real. You know what's next. It's here. You've lived it. So yeah, it's definitely much easier. Unfortunately, or fortunately rather, there are not many bad experiences, because we tend to write about the bad ones, don't we? There've not been that many bad experiences in my life, so I've had to invent my own stories and put myself, which is another great thing about being a songwriter. You can put yourself in other person's shoes, and that's pretty cool as well.
Do you find, I mean, what's your gauge as a performer, as a creator? Can you usually tell which song is going to go down better with the public? Because it's a hard one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sometimes you think, this they're going to really be receptive towards, and then perhaps it's not the case. I mean,
yeah, definitely. I mean, it is hard. First of all, you have to get past your band. You have to convince them that it's good enough, and then the crowd. I mean, like when Stuart wrote the song Starlight, instantly heard that, and it was like, okay, we've got something here. This is good. It's the same with the song Delta Blues. When I wrote it, I wasn't sure it was for the band, because originally it sounded very country. So I even thought about passing it on to Layla from the Layla Rose Band. But then Stuart heard it, and he was like, no, this needs to stay. And the other guys in the band agreed for sure. So some of them you do know for sure, whereas others, you just never know. But like I said earlier, if it feels right to you, and the band members agree, just put it out there, see how people react. If it works well, great. And if not, maybe it's not meant to be, but at least you felt right about it, and you put it out there.
I think now's the moment to play
all right, so
the one.
So we're going to do one of the ones that did feel right. This is Starlight.
We were the victims of a perfect crime, helping to save this little heart of mine. We were young, misguided, misguided fools, busy breaking all the rules. Remember when we used to ride through town and dance all day until the sun went down? Seems a different life, I know. Where did all the good times go? There's no place like home. 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 It's time to go home. It's time to go home. It's time to go home. Starlight shining around me like diamonds, shimmering through the horizon. Please be my guiding light. Starlight, queen of the darkness, I am blind. Light up the way through the night sky. Please be my eyes tonight. We wrote our future every Friday night. Streetlights flickered in the cold moonlight. Seems so far apart we've grown from those familiar tones I've known. Hush now, baby, there's no need to cry. There's neon candles in the midnight sky. Will illuminate our way so we can make it back someday. There's no place like home. 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 It's time to go home. It's time to go home. It's time to go home. Starlight shining around me like diamonds, shimmering through the horizon. Please be my guiding light. Starlight, queen of the darkness, I am blind. Light up the way through the night sky. Please be my eyes tonight.
Lovely. Thank you. Well, we're coming to an end, but before we finish, I'd just like to ask, you mentioned Jetstream, we've got a few engagements, a couple of festivals, but what's kind of the plan, maybe short term, maybe longer term? Is there one?
Well, yeah, the plan is to keep doing what we're doing now, little baby stepping stones, keep recording, keep rehearsing, keep tightening up those songs, definitely keep performing for sure, no doubt. There's no stopping that. We're on a really cool train right now, and we're riding that train, and it feels really good, and we don't want to stop that anytime soon. So definitely long term and short term, keep doing what we're doing currently.
Okay, and perhaps a lasting word for young people, that little bit of advice for anyone sort of looking up to someone like you, or, thinking, I'd like to be in your position. I mean, what would the advice be? Keep at it, keep rehearsing.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said earlier, definitely persist. If you really love it, just keep doing it, and you'll eventually get better. And I know at first it's a struggle. You want things to sound a particular way, and it doesn't always come out that way. It happens to me as well. But definitely keep at it. Have fun with it. And by all means, I'm always here. I'm sure other musicians are willing. Reach out. We're always here to help and to advise. But definitely have fun with it.
Brilliant. Nolan Frendo, thanks very much. It's been a
Thank you for
pleasure.
having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, guys.